Welcome to Lancashire Community Television Station. I'm your host, Ethan. I'm here with Kraig Golden, a Howard University graduate. How are you doing, Kraig?
Doing great. How are you doing, Ethan?
I'm glad you made the time to be here, be present, and also be admired for this interview. You are a man of education, you're a man of high standards, but at the same time, you know how to cross the finish line and how you work out consistently and graduate from college. Since you're from the West Coast, let's talk about how you were living in California.
I kind of grew up in Orange County, California, and I was mainly around predominantly, white, Latino, and Asian folk. So I wasn't really necessarily around many African American people or black people. So there were times when I kind of did feel alienated at times, but one thing about my family and my mom and my dad is they've set great examples for me to, grow up in a great educational system, and to force education on me. So my mom actually was a college counselor. She worked at a high school and she helped high school kids get into college. And my dad is a doctor, so he practices medicine. And with these examples, I had this, not necessarily pressure, but I knew for a fact that I had to go to college, and and it's very different from living in a black family and doing this. So it's just my parents and my mom, they definitely tried their best to make sure that I go through this process because they didn't want any type of stigma on me as a child or anything like that. So
yeah, living out in California, it's sunny, and you get to see all the palm beaches, the palm trees, and you get to see all these exclusive events, the artistry, the music, and you get to see a different walk of life. Plus, you're in a different time zone. Also, you are an older brother, where the bar was set high for you to set the mark. Not only in high school, but also in college and also as a man. May you tell me what it's like being the older brother in your family?
Yeah, so as an older brother, I definitely felt like I had to set an example for my younger brother. But what's great is that I knew that my brother would do just as well, and just as I didn't feel as though I had to really push him and make sure that he set I didn't have to push him and make him feel as though that Kyle had to grow up and be something big, right? Or he had to follow my footsteps exactly. Like, he had his path, I had my path. And I think that he respects me a lot more because I don't put pressure on him as an older brother. I kind of let him be who he wants to be, and of course we have high standards for each other, which is cool. And we're only 3 years apart, so it's not necessarily like I was way older than him.
I'm an older brother of some of my siblings. I come from a single household of 5. I have an older brother that's older than me, and about 5 of us, I'm the only person who graduated from a community college. Now I'm going to get ready to graduate from a university college. Then out of my other siblings that live in different homes, I'm again the first person to graduate from a community college and soon to be graduating from a university college. And that importance of not only furthering education, but also being consistent and determined to do what it takes to not only cross the finish line, but also bring the right people along with you. And speaking of education, you went to a good high school, a good middle school, and you're also with a hoop man in basketball, man. Let's talk about that.
So I played basketball in high school. I wasn't necessarily the greatest player. I was able to start my senior year of high school. And I averaged about like 13, 14 points a game, played shooting guard. Basketball is really, really competitive in California, so we weren't necessarily the best team. I went to Lucerna High School in Whittier, right on the outskirts, right on the border of LA County. We were a solid team, but, I really love the game of basketball. That's one thing that I really do. I love athletics. I love keeping myself in shape, and I feel like I took it for granted back then because I didn't realize, I won't have this time to really enjoy competitive sports like I once did. I kind of took it for granted, but looking back on it, those were some of the best years of my life because I was able to compete and do something that I really enjoyed. So yeah.
Yeah, competing is a way of life towards success. Competing also brings out a person's character to who wants it more and what are you going to do to compete in life. Because life and success is always forever evolving. And when it comes to evolving, we start to practice different behavior patterns because the things we're doing now is not the same things we were doing in our teenagers' years. And we also enter different chapters of our life. And you enter a higher chapter of your life when you signed up for Howard University on the West Coast, right in the heart of Washington, D.C., next to the nation's capital. And you got a chance to see a whole different walk of life near a lot of people. May you tell me about the experience of going to Howard University and eventually graduating with that bachelor's degree.
Funny because just kind of talking about the West Coast a little bit before I dive into kind of my journey on the East Coast. I didn't realize how much I took the weather and everything, the climate and everything for granted because, I was so used to beaches and palm trees, like you were saying earlier, Ethan. Living in California, you just don't realize, you do have a level of a blessing because of everything around you. Entertainment's around, the culture's around, you got the sports around, but also that weather aspect is something that I really loved and I enjoyed. I didn't realize I would really miss it a lot. And then came my senior year, and I had my college choices down to 3. Right, it was UCLA, Howard University, and Morehouse. My dad actually went to Morehouse; he's a graduate from there, and my uncle went to Howard, but my mom went to UCLA. And so, unfortunately, I didn't get into UCLA, which was my first choice, right? And then it was really a fight between Morehouse and Howard, and I realized that I could actually I could honestly be a catalyst for change. I feel like I could actually make a difference at Howard because of the political sphere around. It was in the heart of DC, so I had a really big interest in politics. And even though it's not something that I really want to do for my future right now, I'm very thankful that I actually studied political science at Howard University because it taught me so much, just about black politics in general, but just government and the world around. Howard University was a great experience in general, and I know UCLA has a big African American population, which is kind of cool, but I definitely did want to have that HBCU experience. So Morehouse and Howard were definitely the next 2 on my list, and I'm so thankful that I was able to have that HBCU experience, understanding and getting to know other black experiences, understanding that black is not monolithic, so there's so many different types of black people, and I didn't realize that because I grew up in Orange County, California, right? Not many black people went to my high school. I think it was 1% of black people out of the whole population went to my high school. So it was such an eye-opening experience to go to Howard, and the culture and just understanding the history, I definitely would not be the person I am today without that experience. And I do love being a Bison, and I always put it on.
Yes, you definitely went through a culture shock where you get to be around people that you can relate to, and the experience was very grateful because you got invited to clubs, start attending events with different people, and you start to see more professors that are relatable to you as well. But at the same time, eventually you closed the bachelor part of your life with getting that degree. Let's talk about the day you graduated, man. That's the day you really put on for your family, made them proud. You moved that tassel from one side to the other.
Actually, so what happened with me, I graduated a semester early, right? So I was a December 2018 graduate. I went to school in the fall of 2015. So I still had a semester left, and I went back home, and I didn't graduate with my peers. So I didn't have a regular graduation. So a lot of my family were very proud of me for actually graduating early and getting that last semester out of the way. I wanted to get it out the way, and it actually led me to a lot of opportunities in the nonprofit space. But when I went back, because I actually went back for my actual graduation, because I graduated early. So when I went back, it was a great experience. I could see my mother, she was so happy for me, my dad, my brother, and I could tell, talking about the big brother piece, I could see that my brother was very proud of me and proud of the person that I had become. And he knew that I was kind of trailblazing and figuring out a way for myself. And I feel like I actually did set a good example on that day. It's one thing to actually, graduate early and you don't really get to see it, but actually feeling it and feeling yourself in the gown and, tossing your hat up and all that good stuff. It definitely is a different type of feeling to know that, yeah, you are a graduate of Howard University and your family got to see you. And one thing I love was, my grandmother, she's passed away now, but my grandmother actually got to go to my graduation. So, those are some times I could never give back.
Yeah, those memories are definitely priceless and always remembered through the pictures, the video recordings, and the celebrations afterwards. That was a time of unity for your best interest, but also recognizing that you were dedicated to not only make your parents proud, but also showed your younger brother that you can do this too and your time's gonna come. And speaking of those bigger opportunities, you end up getting involved in an internship. Let's talk about that experience.
So I had actually 2 internships when I went to Howard University. The first one was the Alliance for Excellent Education. No, I'm sorry. This first one was the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights. It is a nonprofit organization located in the heart of DC. And over there, they do amazing work on the Hill. They do amazing work with specific political groups on the Hill as well, and they're just a catalyst for change. I definitely say so, because they influence a lot of what people do and what people say. I was able to go to many rallies with them. I understood the educational policy aspect because that's something that I was really passionate about at that time, was understanding like what are the reasons for the educational woes in this country and stuff like that. So they really kind of taught me about the Every Student Succeeds Act and just different types of policies that were in place for the educational space that I wouldn't have been open to or understood. And I got a better understanding of all types of politics though. So that internship was great. And I also went to the Alliance for Excellent Education, where I got to actually get my hands dirty with educational policy, and they try to affect policy on the Hill as well with their initiatives and stuff like that.
Yes, I totally agree. That internship has been pivotal in your life. It's also granted you opportunities to see more people on a higher standard of living, and you get to understand certain policies that affect everyone in America. But like every great success person like you in your story, you have people that support you in the background, such as family and your college professors, which were very vital towards you graduating not only from Howard University, but becoming a better man out of the process.
My favorite professor, I always say this, is Dr. Kenesha Grant. She's an amazing woman, so many accolades that she has, and she's just last year she was tenured at Howard University, so she's always going to be there, be a staple of Howard University, and she taught state and local government. And what I loved about Dr. Kenesha Grant, she one time I missed a class, right, and I remember the next day she called me out on it just after class. We were all talking about it, and we were all gathered around passing in papers, and she called me out. She said, you better not miss my class ever again, Kraig. And ever since then, I had that certain type of respect. She didn't try to make a fool out of me, but, I invited Dr. Kenesha Grant to one of our talks at the Leadership Conference on Human and Civil Rights, which was great, which was an amazing experience. We talked about civility and how to go through civil discourse in a proper manner. And to this day, I still have contact with Dr. Kenesha Grant. She's an amazing woman, so many accomplishments, like I said. So definitely my favorite professor. Man,
getting called out like that could be a wake-up call. And for a professor to say not to mess my class ever again, well, that's a warning for what's to come, because those syllabuses, they're legally binding. Yes, yeah, I totally agree with you, because I went to college and I'm always in front of the class, so I never got called out myself. And if I do get called out, it's for something good. I'm the host, Ethan, and I've conducted my interview with Kraig Golden, Thanks very much for your time, Kraig. I appreciate it.